All right.
He's so nervous. I'm so nervous. So scared. So scared.
I have a nervous disorder.
Is that what they call it?
I guess. I don't know.
Look at my hair. Oh.
You look beautiful.
I got the Mike Stine going.
Right.
This big old patch right, where's that? This big old patch right here.
Uh-huh.
And all this around it. I got
Right.
the Mike Stine going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I can get some glue some hair on there next time I have a haircut.
Yeah, can you cut it off the top and put it here, please?
Right, yeah.
Here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright, and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the award-winning #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, the trapezial muscle, also a horse named Sloan with uneven shoulders, and we're going to discuss Chris Pollitt and the Australian Brumby Research Project. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Did you have a great 4th of July weekend?
There was a weekend?
I'm sorry. I always, for whatever reason, I always say 4th of July weekend, but it just seems like it goes together. Did you have an awesome 4th of July day?
I did.
What did you do?
I played catch up. I shoot horses.
You shoot horses all day long?
Not all day. It was not a full day.
Did you tell them it was a 4th of July weekend?
Well, the horses don't use the calendar that we use.
Well, they got a different calendar.
That's right. They got a horse calendar that means they want to get up and eat and poop and do that on any given day, and they don't care.
Well, we had here on the property, my wife and I, as you know, we have Cayenne and we have Dominique here on the property.
Right.
And, you know, we're not on top of neighbors or anything like that, but we do have neighbors that are
not like a condo project.
No, nothing like that. You know, a good 200 yards down the way there, we have a house. And they've got some kids, and I say kids, you know, under the age of 10. And we always worry about them shooting off fireworks. So this year, last year he was really, really nice. He said, hey, we're going to shoot fireworks this year, you know, just to let you know. So
right.
he gave us a heads up because of the horses and stuff. So we put the horses in the back pasture and gave them, it's not Brandamine. What's the tranquilizer to kind of calm them down a little?
Brandamine. You can give them Brandamine if you want.
No, but what's the other one? It starts with a Tyrezolinini.
That one, yes.
So my wife...
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. That seems to be the end thing lately.
So my wife goes, well, find out, you know, she's nudging me, find out if he's shooting fireworks this year. I said, babe, it's hot. You know, he works. It's the middle of the week. Last year it was on a weekend or something. I don't know. She's like, find out so I can buy this stuff.
Trazodone.
Nailed it. And
first time.
And so we can give it to the horse, you know, because I have to order it. I have to go get it. And I have to give it to a certain time. And, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. So I text him, hey, man, are you firing off fireworks this year? It's cool if you are. We just need to know if we need to move the horses around. He goes, I don't know. I have to work, but we'll find out, and I'll let you know later on. So I showed her the text. She's like, that doesn't tell me anything. I go, babe. I said, come on. I don't want to harass the guy. You know, are you shooting fireworks off? You know, I don't want to pin him down to it. If he shoots them off, you know, we'll move the horses to the back. We'll hang out. They might shoot them off for an hour or two. It's not New Year's Eve or anything like that. So nothing happened. It was too hot. I think we were under a fire watch, too, here in the Carolinas.
A fireworks watch.
Yeah, something like that. I seen a house burn down the other day from I forget where it was at. And it was just horrible. They were shooting off all these fireworks in the neighborhood, and they were like going, that looks so beautiful. 1 hour later, and it showed the house on fire. Now, speaking of being on fire, Mike, every 4th of July, I don't know if you know this or not, but I got a present for you.
I know a guy that got mad at his house and burned it down.
Well, this 4th of July, this is going to be tradition now, and you can hear me wrestling around in the bag here. I've got something for you here.
Oh, boy.
I got to look under the light to see which one's which. I made...
Peanuts.
I make boiled peanuts, and I put them out in the crock pot. I put them on the back porch, and they sit there for a couple days and stuff. Do you like boiled peanuts, Mike?
Yes, I do. I came from the South.
All right, and you know what's weird? My dad's from Lafayette, North Carolina. Hates boiled peanuts.
Where's Lafayette?
Right over there towards the Durham area.
Okay, gotcha.
And So Fayetteville, sorry, not Lafayette. Fayetteville.
He's from Lafayette, Fayetteville. Depends which way you spell it. You get either one out of it, right?
Word jumble. So I said, Dad, do you like boiled peanuts? He's like, no, I hate them. I'm like, you're from North Carolina. You're from a tobacco country area.
Does he chew tobacco?
You smoked a lot, but he does not like boiled peanuts. I said, there's something wrong with you. So, Mike, I made boiled peanuts because I think last year you came up on the porch and had some.
Right.
So I put them away. But I got you 2 bags of boiled peanuts. I got this one that I have is, I think, hot, spicy, and the other one is salty garlic. So
nice.
I got you some napkins if you want to eat some during the show. So you're welcome. There you go. There's your 4th of July peanuts. You got lunch for the day.
That's right.
All right, guys. We got a lot to talk about today and a lot to get into.
I got to go to a supply shop. I'll sit down over there in the chair on the side, start throwing the shells all over Randy's floor.
Yeah, he'll love you for that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we'll love you for sticking around because we got a big show and lots to get into. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Oh, I forgot to put the time down. Doggone it. That was, how long was that? That was 5. So we started at 9:46. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stein, brought to you by Equine One. All natural hoof mender putty and all natural hoof dressing. Go right now and get 10% off. Mike, that's your cue. Hold them up.
Yes.
There you go. And don't forget, for every podcast, we do have a matching video over on YouTube. You can see Mike holding up these products right here. Equine natural hoof dressing from Equine One. Go get 10% off right now with the keyword podcast or Equine Dynamics. Get yours right now.
And you will see them on my shoeing cart. They've been great for thrush and many other hoof problems.
That's Equine.1 for all your hoof care needs.
And get your discount.
Yeah, 10% off. All right. So talking terminology, Mike, this week we're going to talk about the trapezial muscle. Now, I know from
working out in the gym.
I was just going to say, working out in the gym, the trapezial muscle is this big knot right on the back of my neck. And it's not a pain in the neck. It's this, big swollen thing that some guys get where it makes their neck look like they're like muscular.
Right. When you get all puffed up at the gym. Yeah.
So, but on a horse, the trapezial muscle is not that same way, or is it?
Well, yes, basically it is, but the anatomy is shaped different.
Of course, he's got more.
And you have the traps that come up into the neck, and then you have the thoracic part that goes into the rib cage. It's kind of like a big butterfly. Does that sound something?
Yeah, that sounds
okay.
Great. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
So what is why are we talking about the trapezial muscle on this episode? Now, by definition, it says it enables the horse to move the shoulder forward and raise its leg. That's what the trapezial muscle's job is.
Right. And if you want to build it, ground poles are a good exercise. But part of the reason we got into that is we do have a horse that the discussion of the day became we're having a problem with saddle fit. And if you have the thoracic trapezius muscles are atrophied away, you get the hole in behind the withers and the drop back and all that. And then those horses also on the trapezius where it goes into the neck and ties up the nuchal ligament, that part can puff up. And if you've got a horse that's leaning on the front end and overstress itself, that's one of the signs you look at is underdevelopment and overdevelopment. You're looking for even development. And it's a quick sign to say, horse is locking up in the shoulders, horse is laying on the front end. Visually, we can see it in the development in the lower part of the neck. And also you can see it in lack of development in behind the withers.
And what were you saying? What's the best exercise or one of the
ground
key
poles,
exercise?
working uneven terrain.
Are you talking about like cavalettis or just regular
cavalettis,
okay.
ground poles? You can use cavalettis, ground poles. How do you want to do it?
I like to use cavalettis.
Which name do you like best?
I like cavalettis because it makes me sound smarter.
Well, that takes a lot.
Or smell smarter or something.
Smell smarter, yeah. I think you smell smarter.
Well, thank you. It's my clone.
Yes.
So my wife's got cavalettis out there. So is any kind of uneven grounds and stuff?
I think traversing uneven ground, horses that are constantly on flat ground, we lose range of motion as far as scapula around the barrel. And the whole scapula, the whole shoulders and muscles, and a sling of muscles, this is not attached to the rib cage. So they don't have the ball and socket joint like we do. They do kind of have a shoulder joint, but it's not connected directly to the rib cage. They don't have a collarbone.
So do they have something, you're talking about uneven ground and stuff. Do they have a machine And in my mind, I'm picturing like a Stairmaster machine that a horse can physically walk up and build that muscle instead of like if you don't have all-terrain, you know, if you don't have an area or you want to be a little bit more isolated.
Well, I'll tell you something talking about that.
Okay.
When
Sounds exciting.
I was in at the Purina labs a few years ago, Eric Shoup took me to see their labs, and they had a treadmill where they were trotting horses, and they had this hood so they can measure oxygen use and all this sort of deal. And it's amazing to the extent they go from that they could, you know, speed up, slow down, and raise the elevation of the treadmill for the horse. So if you would just put one of those in the back of your barn, you could exercise your horse on that and have them working a little uphill. You know, you could adjust speed, you could adjust elevation of the uphill. It may have worked downhill. If you put the horse in it backwards, it would work downhill now, wouldn't it?
I guess it would, yes.
But then they could back up, down, uphill or something. I don't know.
Up the down staircase?
Up the down staircase, yes, exactly. It's like, you're going up the down the escalator, right?
Right, exactly, and you're never getting anywhere. So, but they do make, I was thinking of like a Stairmaster, but I guess that would be kind of complicated, kind of clunky for a horse. But yeah, I guess a treadmill would be a little bit more feasible to have a horse walk on it to build those muscles. Now, you were talking about...
I've had clients who had treadmills.
For horses?
For horses, yes. I have not heard or seen that in a long time, but I had...
That's someone with way too much money. Right. Way too much money.
Right. I did have a client who, well... you went into two sides of their main barn, and then they had their indoor arena. All this was under one roof. They had a breeding lab. They had a stallion barn, and back in the breeding lab, they had their stocks and all that, and they had a treadmill in the barn. The problem on some of the treadmills is length of stride. I think that's why they kind of got away from it, is their treadmill did not allow them to stride out as much. And...
Now, back to the trapezial muscle and working that trapezial muscle out. And we're going to talk about a horse named Sloan who had a high-low in the shoulders. And you were talking about saddle fitting, and we'll dive into that here in a little bit. But
head first.
Yeah, right head first, yeah.
Splat on the ground, right?
Would a saddle fitter let you know, hey, your horse... Well, I guess what I'm saying is, will a saddle fitter fit the saddle with a horse that has high-low, like more padding on this side and less padding on this side, if you've got a bad trapezial muscle setup?
Well, this was some of our discussion when they were talking about the saddle fit. Are you fixing this with flocking on the new saddle, or are you fixing it with a pad where you can add shims to remove the shims? Because the ideal situation is we get that weak side stronger, and it's weak side, strong side. And you want them to have as close to equal development as we can get, despite the rider. Understand I say despite the rider, because hopefully the rider's getting themselves in condition and where they can use their body equally on either side and getting their balance together.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick little break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about a horse named Sloan, because we're diving into now the saddle fitting part of having an uneven trapezial muscle type deal, and we'll dive into that when we come back. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. That was a little shorty.
A shorty?
The short segment.
Well, that's okay every now and then, right?
Yeah. What picture do you want me to start with Sloan? That one?
Let's start with the back picture.
This picture right here?
The one of the back.
Oh, one of the back. Okay. I thought when you said back, I thought you meant back. The back. Last picture. I'm a simple man, Mike. I just need simple terms.
I'll do simple. I take simple to a whole new lower level.
Yes, exactly. You ready?
Yes.
Get ready. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up, brought to you by Equine One.
Adjust my positioning.
Equine One natural hoof dressing and natural hoof mender putty. Get yours right now with 10% off at equine.one with the keyword podcast or keyword Equine Dynamics. Your pick. Both of them will get you 10% off your whole entire hoof care order. So go to equine.one right now and get yours. Thank you, Mike. Good job.
Thank you. I held them up well, right?
You did very well with that, right in front of your face.
Well, people don't want to see my face that much.
But if they do, they can go over to YouTube right now, because I got a picture of Sloan, and this is the back of a horse. Let Here's all the behind the scenes stuff. So here's a picture of Sloan.
How far behind the scenes?
And if you go over to YouTube right now and search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, make sure you give him a subscribe over there, and you can see all the different pictures and videos and stuff that we talk about here on the program in real time as we're talking about them. We got x-rays on there as Mike talks about x-rays and stuff. And also we have little small bite-sized pieces. If you don't want to sit there and watch the whole entire podcast and everything that goes on here in the studios, there's small little segments over there that kind of break down one little topic at a time. So if you're like on a lunch break or something like that, you don't have a whole time to watch the whole entire show, you can check out the little short segments over there at the Equine Dynamics on YouTube. And over to my far inside is Mike Stine, speaking of being on YouTube.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing great. Forgot to introduce you there, but there you are.
Well, you know.
Now, we're going to introduce right now Sloan. Now, I see is that your hand out there?
That is not my hand. I'm not quick enough to do that and take a picture.
Oh, okay. So we're looking at Sloan here, and I see your truck there in the background.
Right.
And Sloan, I can see that the right-hand side is low, and the left-hand side is high. Now, is that a true definition of a high-low on a horse?
Well, you got to look at a couple of things here. Part of the discussion is new saddle and trying to get the saddle fit properly, and the saddle wanting to roll off to the weak side shoulder. Now, when you're looking at him, you got to take a couple things into consideration. You see the way his head is turned.
Mm-hmm. He's looking at who's taking the picture.
Some weirdos behind me. What's he doing?
Yeah,
right?
It's scaring me.
People are stupid.
Don't touch me.
He's proving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of bringing food to them, we're really a nuisance.
So why is the horse got its head cocked that way to the left?
He's probably wondering what I'm doing back there.
Sure.
Some strange person. Yes. But anyway, ideally, the head would be straightforward because just that little bit of cock of the neck is going to change the way the shoulders look. It's like when you're doing, your big workout and you're getting all puffed up at the gym and you're working one side more than the other, right?
Right.
Because it depends on which way you're flexing.
Right, exactly.
Because we understand.
So trying to get a saddle on this horse, we were talking about how are they patting it? Are they flocking it more on the right side to make up for the difference of the lower dropped end? Or should they be doing that at all? They were like, or should the saddle fitter?
The saddle fitter is going to be back out a few times because we're going to see how the flocking is going to compress. It's a new saddle. And she's got a pad that takes shims. Now, if we get this horse, if we flock to where the horse is at this immediate moment and fit the saddle to this immediate moment, and we start building up the shoulder, well, the flocking is going to get in the way of the shoulder wanting to open up and raise.
It's going to limit that mobility.
Right. So then you're going to limit development of the shoulder. So the option has been at this point is to use, and there's a lot of good pads out there that take shims. Let's shim up that weak side so that we can slip the shim out as we get development. Now, if the horse develops evenly, you will flock the ideally right now it's going for flocking the new saddle pretty much consistent from left to right. And you need to leave enough room for movement. If you trap that shoulder down, that's going to affect what happens to the feet. And then we're always going to be chasing that. And then also you get into right-handed rider, left-handed rider. Is a rider heavier on one side than the other? And that throws a whole another thing into the ball of wax on the saddle fit, and which will affect how the shoulders move, and then that's going to affect how things go on the ground.
Would it be a good idea to, in the situation that Sloan's in right now, would it be a good idea to start doing groundwork before even trying to get the saddle on her?
Oh, I would think that would be wonderful. And we were talking about the deal with Richard the other week with the long lines.
Right.
It's always easier for a horse to start moving without the interference. And do we do enough on the ground? Most cases, probably not. Is it easier to get a horse's back together? I mean, back when I was working with Ray Morris, and horses that we worked on, as far as back development, we could always, and we weren't masters at it. We just did what we could do, but it was always easier to get the back up and strong without the interference.
Now, with the way that Sloan is right now, is this a level 10 being the worst, or a level 1 meaning, this isn't that bad, a couple of weeks of training? How bad is this high-low on this horse?
The worst I've probably ever done, there was over 4 inches of difference between the top level of scapula. And that was getting kind of extreme.
And how long, if you just did groundwork 3 times a week, not riding or anything like that, how long do you think it would take to bring that horse back up to a uniform level? How long do you got?
There are how many variables when you're putting together a program?
I know.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I mean, is it a year? Is it weeks? Is it month? Is it like 2 days? I know it's not going to be 2 days.
Is it 2 days? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it what is done by the farrier? Is it, which can make a huge difference? Mm-hmm. Is it? And here's part of the problem. Okay, lunging a horse, and I'm not saying do this strictly by lunging. You can do shoulder in, you can do shoulder out, you can maneuvering. If you work the horse downhill, like down a ditch line. So if you had a nice, clean ditch line that was safe, and part of your workout every day, you could literally just walk down the ditch line, put that weak shoulder on the high side, make him pick himself up a few times, and build that into the workout to build the weak side. You could, okay, I know that one of my clients had a horse that was consistently weak in the hind leg and used cat collars.
Cat collars?
With a bell.
Oh, okay.
She said, I found this great thing. I found a cat collar with a bell, and I put it on the weak hind leg and been doing it. And went to my dressage trainer. My dressage trainer says, okay, what if you've been doing the weak hind leg is now the strongest hind leg? We need to get more on the other side. What have you been doing? She says, well, I took a cat collar with a bell on it, and I stuck it on the weak hind leg, and it would engage more range of movement because of the filling that thing on the hind leg and the noise of the cat bell. You get a higher step. So we built more muscle on that weak side.
He's probably like, get this thing off of me.
I mean, I'm not saying we're going to have a rate on cheap cat collars with bells now, and the price is going to jump way up because there'll be such a demand for them, right?
They're not called cat bells anymore. They're called horse hoof bells.
That's our next marketing.
There we go.
We can buy a bunch of cat collars, relabel them, put a picture of a dressage horse on them, and there we go.
$30 each.
Right, exactly.
See you later, everybody. We're out of here.
Yeah, we make a special deal for $19.95. You can get 2 of them.
Not
2 of them. The second one for double price.
That's right. Not 1, but 2.
That's right. You can pay twice as much for the second one. So anyway, there's a lot that we can do to engage the weak shoulder. Now
you were talking about the Farrier has a big issue or a big effect on the way the high-low shoulder is, and this is Sloan's front feet. So what are we looking at here? I see the right one has got more of a short pastern, long pastern is a little bit more of an angle than the other side. I can't tell if it's the way the horse is standing, but I can tell that the angle is completely different than.
Well, he tends to like to stand with the forward and back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that left shoulder, he likes to stand a little bit forward. Now, I've not seen this horse. This is a new one in my rotation. Okay, if we look at that foot that is under the weak shoulder being the foot to the back, correct?
Correct.
Notice your coronary band. Notice that first little bit of the hoof wall.
It kind of bubbles out a little bit.
It bubbles out a little bit, and then you've got a break in the alignment of the hoof wall angled out.
Yep, right there, and then straight down.
Boom. Yeah. Now, it's been groomed well, but why do we have the bubble out? Is that not, when you start looking at, is this on the spectrum of, let's call it the spectrum of being a club foot, and we look at the shape of that the hair above the coronary band, it's a little bit straighter on that side than it is on the left front. So radiographically, where is that coffin going to be? Even though the toe is forward of that, where's that coffin bone alignment going to be? And are we not going to be at more of an upright level? And look at what's going on with the coronary band as it drifts back towards the back of the foot.
Kind of drifts off and back and down.
Right, and it's a little bit straighter on this other side.
Yeah.
So is that not okay? Would this not be like an extremely low grade club? I know people don't like to hear that. High low, because that's more acceptable.
Right.
A little bit of a high low situation. Now the foot has migrated forward, but stretched forward. and it's not truly where it should be as far as where it's coming out of the coronary band.
It's not the leg is not on top of it. Straight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because it's stretched forward to where where what wants to grow out of the coronary band. And how much, then you look at the tendon in the back of the leg and how much pressure have we got there and how much release do we have in our checks as far as when the horse relaxes. Because that makes a difference in where that high-low wants to settle in when the horse stands there half asleep, right?
Right. So as a farrier, you would design a shoe just for this foot to kind of correct some of this misalignment that's going on.
Right. And, we're not doing drastic things to the foot, but I am modifying the shoes a little different from left to right. And the other thing on this foot horse is, okay, weak side, strong side. If you put a bracelet on, and I can do something because I'm a farrier, right?
Right.
And this is one reason farriers need to look up top, because to get our horse to perform correctly in the dressage arena or wherever it may be, we need development even up top. Okay. I can shape a shoe, fit a shoe, do the mechanics per that leg. You got to pay attention to the diagonal, because the working, in a horse's trot, the working relationship between front and hind means something when you're working on that foot.
So the front right foot, you got to pay attention to what's going on to the rear left foot.
Yes, exactly. What is the relationship between those two? Okay. So, yes. And I height shoe, so I did modify breakover, forged out the toes, did a few things to the shoe outside of what I would if I just shaped them cold and put on. To me, cold shoeing, you are limited in what you can do. And that's why I don't really cold shoe anymore, because pretty much everything has modified for some level, because every horse to some level needs to be a custom fit for that horse as best we can to help the situation.
It's like glass slippers.
Yes, and he's not wearing glass slippers.
No, personalized shoes.
It's pretty traditional. Now, if you had a pad on this horse, you could handle it one way. There's no pads on this horse. It's the shoe. So when I go to the shoe rack, or when I go to the back of the foot, if I can put a couple ounces more on that weak side, and only a couple ounces in the metal.
Like the little fishing weights.
Like the fishing weights. There's no fishing weights here. It's just the shoes. Mm-hmm. When I select shoes, I can think about that when I'm selecting shoes. In this case, the shoe that I put on that right foot is just about a millimeter wider, very little, but it's more of a European designed shoe, so it's just a shade heavier. I mean, you might could notice it. You notice if you put it on scales, but we're talking about an ounce. We're talking about less than an ounce difference between the two. The other thing is, if I want to position weight in a shoe, and I don't want to weld onto it or anything like that, sometimes I do. Forge weld a piece of metal in somewhere, something like that, on a steel shoe. Typically, I don't do anything with a fishing weight. And if I do something with a fishing weight, it's very short term, just to get us through a situation. And then you want the horse you start engaging the muscle, and then you want the muscle of the horse to take over.
Now, go ahead.
When you are working at the back of the truck, okay, just to say for this, if I want to lighten a shoeing area, and I don't want to change the ground surface part of the shoe, when I go to the grinder, I can seat out the toe with the top of the belt sign in a particular section. If I want it heavier at the outside or inside or forward, you can seat out with a hammer, or I can take the grinder and seat it out. When I shave that little bit of metal off, that lightens that area. Okay, I can take the exact same shoe, and if I want a little, I can hammer the seat out into the shoe. And on the other side, if I just want to lighten it, I can go to the grinder, flip it upside down, and roll it around on the grinder, tilt it, and just shave out that seat out part with the grinder, and you're taking just a smidgen of metal off. And just that little bit is enough to engage a muscle slightly more on the weak side.
Now, I go for a walk. Every day I go for a walk. Like when we're done with the show here, I'll put on my gym shorts and stuff, and I'll go for a 3-mile walk. And I carry this with me because I like listening to the news and stuff. And what I carry is, and I'm showing this, if you're watching the YouTube video, is my phone, my cellular phone. This probably weighs, let's say, 6 ounces.
Right.
I will carry it in my left hand. By the time I get done with that first mile, my shoulder is killing me. because I've got this little 6-ounce thing in my hand,
Right.
and I'm walking a mile and a half, and I'm like, whew, my shoulder. I know everyone's like, you big sissy, but I mean that. Just carrying something like this around and walking with it on one side of my body, I could feel the burn,
right?
For the most part in my shoulder. So when you talk about removing or adding a little bit of weight to a horse's foot,
when we're dealing with a horse and I'm playing with the weight difference left to right, I'm talking not even an ounce.
Yes,
I'm talking about 1/3 of an ounce. That's about the range you're working in. And is that enough? Because you don't want to engage them so hard you make the muscle sore. Because then they'll try to get away from using it just a little. Think about a little, how little that
kernel.
is. A little kernel, right? So it's not very much, but you got to think about what you hit with what when you do it. When you go to the grinder, can I adjust? Can I shave off a little bit out of the back of that shoe and leave the ground surface of the shoe where I need it to be? Is the horse even enough up top to I want to leave it even? Are we even looking up top when we shoe a horse? Because we better be. And that's front end or back end. What I do on this horse in particular right now is weak left front. He's also a little weak left hind. If he's dropping that left front, he rolls his barrel out to the right when he's trotting more. And he twists that left hind under. If it's a diagonal weak horse, if I get him stronger on that left front, is it going to put a little more weight back onto that left diagonal? Depends on how he's carrying his barrel. And then we start evening up the front end. But if the horse is uneven on the front end, he will be uneven on the back end. Evening him up on the front end will even him up on the back end, 2 degrees. Now, if it's a horse I was shoeing all the way around, I can even him up quicker from what I do on the back end of the horse. And so many times, we're only shoeing the front end because. But mechanically, I can have more effect on uneven front ends by what I do on the back end of the horse. But the situation, where am I working? What am I allowed to work with?
It's like fixing the alignment on your car.
Yeah. They're really rear power, rear steer.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into Dr. Chris Pollitt and the Australian Brumby research project that Mike did some research on himself. So stick around, we'll dive into that when we come back. So stick around, you're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back.
Give me just a second.
Sure. Straight vodka.
Yeah, we're talking about rear steer. Think about a horse turning when they step under the center line and they push their barrel around.
Well,
Then they aim the whole body in the direction they want to go.
no wonder you got to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes.
Yeah, the other week when it was 97, 98 degrees in the barn shoeing, I was throwing water bottles under the truck. I drank 8 liters of water that day.
Did you really? Son of a gun.
Yeah, but I was there wasn't anything that was dry. Had fans blowing, but it wasn't anything that was dry.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Get your hoof mender stuff ready.
Hoof mender is ready.
Let's see where we're at. Here we are. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, brought to you by Equine One's natural hoof dressing and all natural hoof mender putty. That's Equine One. Get 10% off your order right now. Go to equine.one. Order yours right now and get 10% off with keyword podcast or Equine Dynamics.
All right, if you want to treat some thrush problems without using chemicals, or some white line problems without using chemicals, and this is great when you put it under pads to keep pads clean.
And when you say
you
that,
can use it for sore-footed horses or whatever.
You're talking about the hoof mender putty.
The hoof mender putty, I put a little smear under a pad. If I've got a rotten foot, I can paint some of this in there.
That's the hoof dressing.
The hoof dressing. You don't have to worry about the chemicals and You can wash it off your hands with something that will take sticky stuff off.
And get 10% off your order to equine.one by putting podcast or Equine Dynamics.
Right. And if you get it all over your hands, you want to fix your hair, just run it through your hair.
Yeah, I know. I got my
And
Mike.
then you don't have to put mousse on your head.
I got my Mike Stine haircut going on.
Right.
You know what? If we didn't have names under our faces
They
here,
probably couldn't tell the difference.
we'd twin brothers.
Exactly.
We'd be twin brothers. All right. Now
I'd be the purdy one.
you would. You get all the ladies. Now we're going to talk about. Right now, we're going to talk about Dr. Chris Pollitt. Now, let me hold on a sec. And don't forget, for every podcast we have here on Equine Dynamics, we also have a matching YouTube video. You can see the whole entire podcast. Now, the audio portion of the podcast that you hear on iHeartRadio and Spotify and all that, that's the condensed version. If you want to hear the whole entire podcast in its true form, go over to the YouTube channel and you can see this and hear everything that goes on here in the studio. We just make all the important parts on the air, go to the podcast, and then we have the whole entire show on the YouTube channel. So check that out if you want to see the whole entire show. Now, speaking of twin buddies here, who do we have here, Mike?
The younger looking guy who is taller is Dr. Chris Pollitt from Australia.
Okay.
And he was really pushing what was going on with the wild horse feet. And he's looked at a lot of, this guy has done a huge amount. Hey, if you want to look up some really good, valid information, look up what Chris Pollitt has done down there in Australia.
And is this the correct spelling? Pollitt? Is that the correct spelling for his name?
I barely can spell my name.
So, Chris Pollitt, Dr. Chris Pollitt. And so tell us about what Dr. Chris Pollitt was doing and also the Australian Brumby research project that he's been working on.
Right. It's been a bit. Pulled up some information from 2009. And this was at the International Hoof Care Summit. And he was not there, and I believe his mate's name was Brian, who presented there. But this is a video that they had made up talking about the wear patterns and the conditioning, and was it conditions or was it genetics on the footwear?
And if you want to see this video, go to wildhorseresearch.com and check that out. That's wildhorseresearch.com, and you can see all the video of the Australian Brumby Research Unit.
And if you want to see, this guy is very legit as far as what's out there, and there's a lot of stuff that's been put out there that I will deem very questionable.
A couple photos from the video.
But Dr. Pollitt has done some wonderful work on the physiology and the dynamics and anatomy and function of the horse's hoof. And for anybody out there, you should take a good hard look at his research, and it'll definitely might change your look at a few things. And they were looking at the wild horses that were in the desert, the high desert, the roughest country out there. And a lot of times when you get into these people, the perfect wild horse's foot, this is kind of what they're modeling after. And it's a very abraded foot. If you notice, there is a little bit of hoof wall off of that sole. You can't see
this is
a real clear picture.
This is a picture of picture from a TV shot, so it's kind of hard to see.
This is off the video as the video is playing, and but they were looking at these horses. And this is what that hard, rough ground, the way it sculpted the foot. It took out off the external part of the wall, and they have some contact on the more on the medial part of the wall, and the soles are rough and hard and tough. And when you get into this is the way the perfect foot should be. Well, you all got to consider living environment when you're prepping feet, and these horses had nobody touching their feet except for the environment. Also, they took a horse in this video from a sandier area where they had more hoof wall on them, which we would not consider the perfect hoof, because this is not the perfect hoof picture we have imaged in our minds. But it was a wild horse, and they relocated the horse for 3 months to watch what the feet did during that transformation. And now understand, these were totally wild horses on both ends, the ones that was moved and the ones that weren't. And the ones that they did not, the ones that they used as a test subject, ended up with a retirement home in a wonderful, wonderful place. But, that foot over 3 months had resculpted to be more like the desert horses. And, looking at our domestic horses, and I know from dealing with the wild horse stuff out at Doc Redden's and from the different groups I'd gotten involved in way back when, that, you know, each environment, the wild horse's foot is a little different. And when we're prepping horses for the domestic world, some of that we need to think about. And there's we can make the perfect wild horse foot out of our thoroughbred. Yeah, probably not. And I've been involved in some of those when they come in the vet clinic and they've got some real problems. So, and it sometimes when you're working on this domestic horse that have no foot on them, as far as getting the quote perfect foot, sometimes you need a little bit of mass there. And sometimes, like Doc Redden says, sometimes mass trumps balance. If you don't have enough mass there and the horse can't walk on it, when we're working on horses' feet, this is one of my pet peeves. Well, he's got to be sore because. I don't want my customer horses sore. And I've had people been lectured about this. Well, when you do this and you make it like the wild horse's foot, they're supposed to be lame for 6 months. And I've had people tell me this. And you're not doing a good service for the horse if that's where you're going. But you're looking at, you know, the internal structures. You're looking at, you know, the development of the internal structure compared to a domestic horse. On these horses, it's not the same thing. But they're brought up different. They were brought up having to move when they were young, and that affects tendons, ligaments, and development of the leg all the way up. Joint spacing, the whole bit. Because these horses, when the mare foals, they will move them for a couple hours before they're allowed to nurse, is what one of the groups in the U.S. was coming up with. And they leave the placenta behind for the predators to have to keep them off the baby. So that in its own, right there, you're dealing with a different foot, different horse than our domestic horses. A lot of them had somebody that had me looking at a foal the other week. And foal was born, yes, it's a big stall, double stall, but that baby now is 3 or 4 months old and it's never lived outside that stall with a mom. There, to me, okay, what are we going to be lacking later because we did not allow this horse to start developing as a baby horse should be in the wild? If you notice in Kentucky and those big breeding farms, those babies are outside.
We have a breeding farm up the road from us.
Right, you do.
And they have, we always drive by and we slow down and my wife goes, look at the wee little babies. And they're out there. They keep the mom, if the mom has a new foal, they keep that one separate from all the other ones. But once they reach, a couple months old, then they work them all in.
Part of the herd and start being horses.
Exactly, yeah. And they don't have a big problem. They probably have like 10 acres down there.
No.
But it's just enough to keep whatever horses that they have down there.
Right. And these people, I know people who have used them for foaling out mares for them, and they do a wonderful job. They're on top of things. And we got some vets in the area that if you got a mare you're going to foal out and you can't manage it, this is some good people to get in touch with.
And that's what we're trying to do with Dominique now, because she's pretty much quote unquote retired. From my understanding with the last conversation I had with my wife, because of the condition that she has, it's not a bad condition. It's just that it doesn't want to, she can't take my wife to the next level. So we're working on getting her to be a brood mare. And it's just a matter of going to University of Texas or something with her DNA and matching it up. I don't know. It's a whole big thing. But, it's always talk. It never really unfolds yet.
Well,
but
it will unfold and you'll notice it in the checkbook.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
So anyway, for people who are interested in hoof anatomy, physiology, and all that, Chris Pollitt's work is something that I will always suggest and is well worth listening to. I did have the pleasure of meeting Dr. Pollitt in New York when I went to the lectures up there. First time I'd actually been to one of his lectures. They were saying this was going to be his last time to come to the States. And I figured that
just because of air travel and stuff is
air travel, and it's getting a little hard and all that kind of stuff. It's expensive, and it was a good opportunity. I have been down to his part of the country. Ray and myself did the talks at Gatton University. He said there were points that he was very involved with what was going on over there, and he is from close to Brisbane and all that down in Australia. So look up Chris Pollitt. Take in everything that he puts out there and think very hard about how you're thinking about your horse.
All right, guys, stick around. One more little segment. We'll let you get back to enjoying your pony. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Is that good?
That's good.
Yeah. A little short segment. Wrap it up. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Get your putty ready. And remember, when you say this, when you go, and this does this, and this does it, make sure you name what it is, because there's people that are listening. They're not watching.
Right.
They're not watching.
Right.
That's why I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, smack me upside the head with something heavy.
That's why I go. That's why I go, Mike. What are you talking about?
Right. Well, that's why you should be keeping a big stick over there. Whack.
Where's my big stick? Here it is.
There you go.
my fly swatter.
Maybe you should get a cattle prod with some reach to it.
I get a wasp that flies around in here. I'm like, oh, he's going to sting me. I know it. So I got that little fly swatter.
If only we can get lucky.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
I was talking about the wasp.
Mm-hmm. You ready? Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, brought to you by Equine One, a natural hoof dressing and natural hoof mender putty.
Right.
100% natural, no petroleum products, protect, prevent, and maintain. Farrier recommended, also recommended by Mike Stine. Get yours right now. Go to equine.one and get 10% off of your whole entire order with the keyword podcast or keyword Equine Dynamics. Take your pick. Both of them will get you 10% off. Go to equine.one for your hoof care needs.
This has really worked well to keep horses' feet good and healthy and happy.
Thank you very much, Mike. There you go. All right. So what did we learn today? Talking terminology. We're talking about these big old pectoral, no, we're talking about the trapezial muscles right here on the horse's shoulders.
Right. And that's what you've been overdeveloping at the gym.
Yes.
And, the trap, you look at how they develop, and it does play a part of saddle fit for sure. And also, when you're taking a quick look at a horse, underdevelopment, overdevelopment, that's a fast way to take a look and see how the horse is using itself. Is the horse lifting it back or not? That'll tell you in about half a second.
The trapezial muscle enables the horse to move its shoulder forward and helps raise the leg. That's the definition of a trapezial muscle. Now, a horse named Sloan with uneven shoulders on high-low, and we're going to go back to camera 6 here so we can see the picture. So tell us what we're looking at with Sloan here.
We are looking down his back, and we are looking at the development of the shoulders, and we were getting into some saddle fit issues. So as a farrier, when I'm working on a horse, if we got saddle fit issues, what's going on with the feet, and can we do some things to help with the uneven development, and how feet affect the shoulders, how shoulders affect the feet. If you trap a shoulder and you're trying to get the feet to even out and you're trapping them on one side, that's going to affect what's happening with growth patterns in the foot.
And what's the new product we're going to come out with? The Equine horse hoof bell or something like that? Something
like that, yes.
We're going to put that on the back of the horse.
We're going to get rid of the kitty pictures and put horsey pictures on it, and we're going to put a special deal horse price for you.
Right. Only $39.99. You get 2 of them. And we're going to talk about also, you met Dr. Chris Pollitt many years back and what he's doing with the Australian Brumby Research Unit.
Right. Actually, the many years back was put on by his mate at the Hoof Care Summit. And then I got to meet Chris this last year, Dr. Chris Pollitt, at a lecture in New York. And the video I had gotten was back from 2009. That was some of them were given away at the lecture they put together for the Hoof Care Summit that have been running in Cincinnati up until this year.
And you want to see this video, go to wildhorseresearch.com.
For anybody that's into the wild horse natural foot thing, this is well worth spending a little time on, and you should go past this and look into his write-ups, articles, research that those guys did down there, because they really did some good stuff.
All right, guys. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And if you have a question for Mike Stine, or you'd like this podcast to perform at your location or your event, special event, or anything like that, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill out that little form there. And also make sure if you have a question for Mike Stine, you can do that there as well. Make sure you put a physical return address, and we'll mail you out some swag here from the podcast. just for saying thank you for being part of the show. And follow Mike Stine over on Facebook as well. Same thing, Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. And Mike posts a bunch of different articles up there. Great educational stuff if you want to further your education as far as learning about equine and the equine world. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
Have a good day with your ponies.
my name's Travis, saying see you next week.
And let's take care of some feet.
Hi, Lucky. Good night, Ned. Hi, Dusty.
There you go.
Good night, Ned.